What is Luffy's real devil fruit? This question has been on the mind of every One Piece fan since the Gorosei were afraid about a specific devil fruit awakening. Now, there have been many great theories regarding the actual fruit, and how it correlates not only to Luffy, but to his character's build-up since the very beginning. Examples such as the mythical Zoan of Sun Wukong and the other mythical Zoan modeled after Hanuman. And if you want to check out an amazing video on this specific theory about Hanuman, you can go watch this amazing video made by my buddy Threevil. But today, I'm going to talk about one specific theory for some context, and give my own theory regarding where this real devil fruit of Luffy's even came from. And before we get to the theory, please do subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content. And here's a quick sneak peek of what would happen if you do.
You press the subscribe
button. Excuse me, the what?
You sure did that.
Now, the real devil fruit that I'm going to talk about today is the Nika Nika no Mi, model Resin. And of course, the theory stands that this fruit is the perfect combination for many ideas that shape the ideal devil fruit for Luffy. For one, Nika represents the numbers 2 and 9, so they still add up to the number 11 as the numbers 5 and 6 did, which is the representation of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Another thing is that the nature of resin is still very much like rubber, where it can stretch and compress. And with Kaido's recent statement saying that rubber shouldn't allow Luffy to change the trajectory of his attacks, resin can. Resin itself is a much more malleable substance than rubber, and can easily be curved and brought back to its original state. Finally, resin actually has properties inside that contain oil, and that means that it is quite easily flammable, and can stay engulfed in flames for long periods of time. Plus, for the manga readers out there, this last panel in chapter 1043, we see Luffy melting, which is something we have never seen Luffy do until now. And resin is a huge and likely option for Luffy since rubber can't melt on its own without some kind of heat. Also, I want to shout out 𝙬𝚘 for this theory, as he beautifully predicted the puns that would be used in chapter 1043. So my theory will be based on Luffy having this type of resin fruit. Thank you, 𝙬𝚘. Okay. Now some of you may be wondering, Prince, what type of devil fruit is Luffy's real one? It can't be a Logia, and the other devil fruits you mentioned in the beginning were mythical Zoans, and the Gomu Gomu no Mi is a Paramecia. So what could it be? My answer is honestly inspired by Katakuri, and that's the fruit is being a special Paramecia. With the only case of a special Paramecia we've seen so far, Katakuri's devil fruit is shown to act both like a Logia and a Paramecia at the same time. This whole new system Oda has created to kind of merge the two types is very interesting, and I honestly think that he created it at first with Katakuri to then reintroduce it for Luffy's awakening. It would be quite nice to actually see this parallel being shown, because we saw with Kaido's fight with Luffy in the chapter 1042 that it mirrored Luffy versus Katakuri almost directly. Kaido reveals that he has Katakuri's most notable ability, being Future Sight, and then Luffy responds back with having the same type of devil fruit as Katakuri, a special Paramecia. It would be pretty cool if you ask me. Alright, now that we got Luffy's type of fruit out of the way, let's head straight into the origin of the fruit, and why I think that this fruit was discovered by none other than Shanks. Now, Shanks is a complete wild card in the world of One Piece, but with the big reveals Oda has given us, they always somehow lead back to Shanks, one way or another. We saw this with the reveal of Sun God Nika during the 1v1 between Who's Who and Jinbei, and again during the very mysterious meeting with the Gorosei. Speaking of this meeting specifically, with recent events in the manga highlighting the Gorosei's concern about a devil fruit awakening, and orders for CP0 to immediately kill off Luffy, many people are convinced that Shanks was trying to betray Luffy. Well, I actually think it's the opposite, and this is where my theory starts. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Pringles on Reddit, who made a similar theory in terms of the resin fruit for Luffy, but I do have a different ending in terms of what actually happens with its origins, so I do want to share that with you guys today. I think that Shanks intentionally leaked news on Luffy's Nika Nika no Mi in order to scare the Gorosei, and knew that they would try and order CP0 to intervene. And why is that? Because he knew that Luffy's fruit would awaken in a time of utmost crisis, where Luffy had to be completely defeated by Kaido, and in order to truly defeat Kaido, Joy Boy has to step in. Now, I know this is a lot to take in, but we really have to decipher what's going on with this awakening. As a very experienced fighter, Kaido should be aware of when his opponents are dead, and he proudly exclaims that Luffy is dead after winning this fight. Even Trafalgar Law states that Luffy's voice has vanished, and it's quite a bitter pill to swallow. But towards the end of the chapter, we see sound effects through multiple panels of Luffy's heart beating, and Zunisha calls it the drums of liberation. Liberating Luffy from dying? Liberating Luffy from the fight? We don't know specifically, but we know that Joy Boy has returned with this Nika sound effect being shown, which is known to have the effect for a laughing smirk. Is it possible Shanks predicted all this? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that he knew two things. Either Luffy wins the fight on his own, or he's just not there yet. But CP0 intervening would help Luffy's chances where he dies and becomes Joy Boy. Okay, let's now move on to the meat of the theory, which is where the fruit comes from. We all know that Shanks and his crew are quite heavily influenced by Norse mythology, and Shanks himself is theorized to be based on the Norse god Tyr. With that being said, there is also an island that is heavily influenced by Norse mythology in the One Piece world, and that is obviously Elbaf. And most of us have already made the connection that Elbaf is Shanks' territory because of this. Alright, now I'm going to need you guys to put on your tinfoil hats for this one, because we are going to jump into pure speculation from here on out. In Elbaf, we see a giant object in some panels where the coast of the island is being shown, and many believed that that tree in the background is the Atom Tree in One Piece, and it's inspired by the legend of 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚎𝚛, the eternal green ash tree in Norse mythology. With that being said, let's take another component that many fans believe, and that's Joy Boy himself being a giant, and that the Straw Hat in Marijois could be evidence towards this. Now, I believe that Joy Boy actually ate the 𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤 no Mi, and the devil fruit itself was created by/from the Atom Tree, with its sap being put inside the fruit, and with it aging over time, it became resin. Another thing I wanted to bring up is an interesting yet unexplored connection in Elbaf, which would explain more about the 𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤 no Mi and sun god Nika. In Elbaf, there's a very distinct connection between the residents and the sun, as they undergo very serious traditions like fasting for 12 days during the winter solstice in order to become more thankful for the sun and food later on. Now, funny enough, in Norse mythology, there is a goddess who is known as Sol, or the sun god, and has a sibling who is the god of the moon. The god's name is Mani, which can also be an anagram for Nami, who we also know is of sweetest descent, thanks to Oda. And I think this is a little subtle title drop here by Oda, flipping this myth side of the coin by making Luffy the sun god Nika in One Piece, and Nami possibly being the moon goddess, as we know that both the sun and the moon are heavily important in the world of One Piece. And last time we did see someone major trying to reach the moon, being Enel, there were in fact two characters trying to stop him, Nami and Luffy. This may be a bit tinfoily for you guys, but it's interesting to think about. And if you guys want to see a more in-depth video on the connection between Sun God Luffy and Moon Goddess Nami, let me know in the comments. Also, while researching for this video, I came across a quick idea that I think is quite interesting to think about. Haryudin, one of Elbaf's aspiring warriors, wants to re-establish the new giant pirates by becoming strong and gathering a worthy giant crew. We can believe that with his faith in the sun to get that strength, he went to Dressrosa. And what was he seeking out? That's right, the closest thing to the sun that the world knew about in One Piece, and that's the Paramecia no Mi. Interesting to think about. Going back to Shanks now, I think that Roger himself told Shanks about this devil fruit, and with the goal created for each of his crewmates to guide the next Joy Boy, this was Shanks' specific goal, to find the 𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤 no Mi and Elbaf. Shanks then found out the fruit had been taken by the world government, and then proceeds to raid the ship the fruit is on, which is confirmed to us by Who's Who coincidentally enough reveals the sun god Nika in the same chapter. Alright, now that Shanks got the 𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤𝚤 no Mi on his hands, he went to the only place where he needed to go, and that's the East Blue. We know the story of how Luffy eats the fruit out of hunger and Shanks and his crew are surprised, but I think Shanks came to Fuchsia Village for someone else, and that person was Ace. This also goes along with the theory that Kaido was in fact going to Marineford in order to acquire Ace because he thought he was Joy Boy, and his whole card collection would be complete with all these high-ranking officers: King, Queen, Jack, Joker, and now Ace. And the person to stop Kaido was Shanks, and Shanks was able to convince Kaido that Ace wasn't Joy Boy and that Joy Boy would soon come to Wano. In fact, Roger himself thought that the person to find Laugh-Tale and become Joy Boy would have been his son. So that's why Shanks went to East Blue in the first place, to try and find Ace and feed him the Nika Nika no Mi. But obviously Luffy had other plans. And yet, poetically enough, Ace ate the second best thing when it came to being the sun god Nika, and that's the Mera Mera no Mi. However, with the Nika Nika no Mi, I do feel like one's dream to bring smiles to others and be the embodiment of freedom is quite important in terms of awakening the fruit's power. And this was what Shanks was looking for in general, and he thought that was going to be Ace without even meeting him. But yet after Luffy eats the fruit, we see a sort of reassurance in Shanks because he knows that Luffy has the exact same childish dream as Roger. And with that, Shanks simply gave him the straw hat, waiting for the day that Luffy would return it. Now, I can't wait to see what Luffy's awakening of his real fruit will have in store for us. Will it be a mythical Zoan like Sun Wukong, or something like Hanuman or Nue Man? Will it be the Nika Nika no Mi? All I have to say is that I'm sure that whatever we see next, it will definitely put a smile on our face. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you are new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe for more One Piece content. Hope you guys have a great day. See ya!